So the teaser trailer for James Gunn's Superman movie has been released by Warner Brothers, and the first look is mostly pretty good. We get a decent look at David Corenswet's Superman, Rachel Brosnahan's Lois Lane, Nicholas Hoult's Lex Luthor, and more characters a part of the first film in the DCU. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you my review of the trailer, giving you both my positives and negatives towards it. The trailer will be linked in the description of this video if you haven't seen it already. Before I get into it though, if you want to keep up to date on any of my future content surrounding the Superman movie, the DCU, and other DC projects like Matt Reeves' The Batman Saga, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating and subscribing to the channel. But without further ado, let's dive into the first official trailer for James Gunn's Superman. So the first trailer for Superman 2025 has been anticipated for quite a while, and for the comic book universe movie, it might be one of the most important trailers for the next few years. They have the pressure of getting Superman right for the next generation, but they also have the pressure of starting an entire cinematic universe with this film. Minus the separated comic book movies like the Batman films, the original Joker film, Logan, and a few others, the superhero films set in both Marvel and DC cinematic universes haven't been of the quality that we're used to seeing. From bad writing to dodgy CGI to poor character work and uninteresting stories, they haven't been able to capture my excitement nor the level of filmmaking seen in the other projects set outside the universes. And I'm not saying that it has to be on that level, but it would be nice to see a bit more quality from them. But as we turn to the first film of a brand new DC universe, we hope that with a staple character like Superman, director James Gunn and his studio can steer the ship back in the right direction. Now, just to give you my thoughts on the previous Superman and the director of this new one, I'm someone who loved both Man of Steel and also the work of James Gunn in recent years. A lot of comic book fans are very tribal today when it comes to different films or even universes, and I'm sure people will be against this Superman film no matter what they see from it. And the same was true when I was covering Zack Snyder's trilogy in the past here on the channel too. Of course, it's fine with having your own subjective review for each of them, but the tribal aspect towards the different interpretations brings a whole lot of the ugly side to this genre as well. But yeah, I'm someone who thinks Man of Steel was a great underrated film, and on the other side of things, I've liked all of James Gunn's recent comic book projects too. I'm someone who yes respects what came in the past, but I also like to see new interpretations that are good, and I don't think a single take on a character, nor a director's take on that character, is the only one we should support or be interested in going forward. Yes, what happened with Zack Snyder, DC, and Henry Cavill was a complicated affair, but at the end of the day, I'm happy that Snyder got to make 3 movies featuring Superman, and regardless of what anyone else thinks of them, there are people out there like me who do really enjoy them. But now that I've gotten that out of the way, what do I think of the first trailer for James Gunn's new Superman movie? Well, there are things that I really like about it, and things that just after a first look at the film, I'm not too keen on. Starting with the positives, I think one of the standout elements for me with this teaser trailer is the footage we get of David Corenswet's Superman. The shots of him in the costume look great for this brighter interpretation of the character, and just in a few scenes that he shares with Lois Lane, Jonathan Kent, and even Crypto, you can tell that he's taking the role seriously. Visually, the flight sequences with him, while not quite the grandeur of how they were shown in say Man of Steel, do look to be filmed in quite a solid way. I was especially interested when James Gunn came out and said that he was inspired by Top Gun Maverick for those flight sequences. I must admit, they do look good, and I'm excited to see much more of it when it comes to the actual film. Also, the Superman costume, while more comic book accurate, looks fine in the scenes that Corenswet wears it in, and you can definitely see why set photos don't equal with how costumes actually look in the frame. I think the other main thing that this trailer and Corenswet's Superman portray really well is the more hopeful, upward-looking tone that the character is known for. Yes, it might seem a bit similar to the tone of, say, Christopher Reeve's Superman, but I understand why they've gone back to that, especially if they want to build a likeable character involved in many DC projects in the future. Still, the trailer does further tease the darker struggles that Clark and Superman might be facing, and the scene on the ice with Krypto is one of the standout moments that works as an in-between. Speaking of Krypto, I actually really liked what they showed of that character, and while I have minor issues with some of the other CGI and visual effects in the film, the work done on Krypto actually looks really good. The charm and chemistry that looks to be on screen between Superman and Krypto is for me one of the highlights of this teaser. It feels very James Gunn, but seems to be balanced in a way that doesn't come across as too cheesy, and it very well could have been. Furthermore, the on-screen chemistry between Superman and Lois appears to be another strength that the film might have, and I was impressed that their relationship is one that is already formed, yet it shows a true connection between them. It's a bit different, but it does remind me of Henry Cavill and Lois Lane in Man of Steel. The other aspect that stood out to me was some of the world-building elements, like certain iconic locations and characters being teased throughout. The Daily Planet and Luthorcorp look to have great designs within the landscape of Metropolis, and it really seems like Gunn has aimed for a perfect balance between the comic booky elements of the city and a real-life American cityscape. I really appreciated the extended look at the range of characters within that world, like Lois, Lex Luthor, Hawkgirl, Guy Gardner, Metamorpho, and Mr. Terrific, and while I still need to be convinced that all of this can be balanced and executed right in the first DCU movie, I don't doubt Gunn that he can do so, and I think it all depends on the main story. And I'm sure we'll get a lot more of this in the next trailer. But overall, when it comes to the positives of this first look, I think it communicates the central idea, themes, and hope of Superman quite successfully, and it definitely caught my interest in wanting to see more, and especially what kind of story we'll get. I think a crucial aspect of this film and the whole DCU is David Corenswet as Superman, and that element for the most part looks to be a strong one after seeing this initial teaser. But this now brings me over to some of my negatives surrounding this first footage, and while it might come across as quite negative on the points I go into, I just want to highlight that this might be strictly tied to this trailer, and when we actually see the film, this stuff might actually be great. To begin with, one thing I'm a bit mixed on is some of the visual shots on display, because while I liked a lot of the shots featuring Corenswet, there are some others in there that just seem a bit too over the top for me. The shot of the kaiju that can breathe fire, the AI looking shot of the buildings falling down, that massive eye-like machine that we got in the first suit image of Superman, the shot of the Fortress of Solitude, and a few other moments didn't look as great as others. It just seems like more comic book blockbuster noise that in recent years appears quite ugly in comparison to other examples that work in a more grounded or balanced way. Again, what did work for me was establishing shots like the one of Luthorcorp, the Daily Planet, and the brief flight footage of Superman himself. I think it all seems very James Gunn, and while I do like his tone, I still question whether it can be balanced and toned down a bit for a staple and traditional superhero like the Man of Tomorrow. Moving on, the other issues I have are mainly small nitpicks that might just be things that don't quite sit well with me personally. Sticking on the visual side of things, I have to talk about the colour grading. Now, there's been many debates on this over the last 24 hours, and while I get both perspectives, for me personally, as someone who loves the visual properties of what a film and cinema can bring, I do find a lot of these images a bit too saturated, and not the type that is to add to its world through its visual language. I get that this isn't Batman, I get that this is a DC Universe comic book project, but it is a theatrical motion picture, and I would have liked to have seen a colour grade that makes it feel more like a film. You know, say what you want about a project like Man of Steel and it being too muted, but that really had its own palette that was used to ground the world and bring the cinematic qualities of a character like Superman to life on the big screen. Now, I'm not going to completely write off the colour grading because this is just a teaser trailer, and we've seen many films, Gunn's included, change through grading when the films do release. So I expect that by the time Superman does come out, Gunn and his team would have worked to craft imagery and grade it in a way way that feels more film-like and suited to the cinematic experience. But just from this initial teaser, I'm seeing a lack of grading and things do look quite saturated in a way that I can understand the CW comparisons that people have been making. And the final nitpick I have is related to the reuse of John Williams' Superman theme. Now, I completely get the iconic stature of John Williams' Superman theme, and I understand the point of view that this music is so iconic that using it is a way of translating that upward-looking hope that Superman is known for. I also get that characters like James Bond have kept an iconic theme with numerous movies and castings. But for me, when a new take on a character like Superman in a different world with a unique tone is being made for the next generation, having a new take on his theme is something that I would have appreciated a whole lot more. Batman as a character has had so many different themes for different versions, different worlds, and different stories set in Gotham, and nearly every time, that theme has become iconic for that take on the character. I don't want to watch Gunn and Corenswet Superman and think about versions of the character that have come before it, because I want to look at the new Superman and be transported into that version and that world with its own score. Man of Steel may not be everyone's cup of tea, but the theme created by Hans Zimmer was great on its own merits and fit the version that we got with Henry Cavill. The score went on to be nominated for BAFTAs, and I still love that score today. Now, I know that a majority of Gunn's Superman score will be unique and original for this new film, and that is great. But having a similar main theme and similar notes in that theme is something that just feels a bit off to me. I would have preferred them to be a bit more unique with it and have a new theme for the next generation. And yes, you can still pay homage to Williams' theme and even have notes of Zimmer's one in there too, but then also have the main skeleton of it be unique to this take. It may just be something that I don't like, but yeah, I do think that they could have had a newer theme and something that is fresh for this Superman. The visual and audio language of cinema is a big part of how you create a world on screen and your take on a particular franchise and character. And having your own version through many different elements is something that I respect a whole lot more. But that was my video discussing the first trailer for the new Superman movie. Overall, I really dug the trailer, and I also liked the communication of the central themes of Superman through some of the imagery that we got and the moments with Corenswet's hero. It does get me hopeful that this can be a great take on the character and the start of a brand new universe. Again, there are a few things that I'm a bit mixed on too, but this may just be initial elements that appear and work differently when we actually see the full film. There's still a bit of a wait to see if James Gunn can really deliver with his take on the iconic character, and we know that it's massively important to do so if the future of the DCU is going to work long term. It has to be a movie that is great on its own, but then it has to set the blueprint of what's to come beyond it. The teaser trailer is a solid first look at what we might expect, and I'm hoping that in the months leading up to the film, with more footage and marketing, we'll really start to get excited for the beginning of the DCU. But let me know down below in the comment section whether you're excited for Superman 2025 and whether this first trailer made a good impression with the footage on display. For much more videos and news on Superman and DC, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.